Game ain't over. The sun is shining. And it ain't over.
You wanted the best, you got the best. From my home studio on Long Island, New York, welcome to Ian Scotto Rocks. I, of course, am your host, Ian Scotto, and Pantera changed everything. That's what we're going to be talking about today. In the early 90s, basically by 91, 92, people call it that wall fell down. Nevermind gets released from Nirvana. 10 gets released by Pearl Jam. And all of those bands of the 80s were no longer cool anymore. And they needed something to kind of grab onto, to take a hold of, and to continue their musical career, because they saw the writing on the wall that they were going to be dead if they didn't evolve. And a lot of those bands didn't really matter, just because their name became uncool with the changing time. Now, they weren't going to suddenly embrace bands like Metallica and Slayer, because there really was a rift there between the 80s glam bands and the thrash bands. They legitimately hated each other, and they certainly weren't going to embrace the grunge scene. At least most of them weren't. But Pantera was something new and rebellious, and their major label debut dropped in 1990, and that was why bands like Mötley Crüe were trying to work with them on some things. There's a video you could find that we'll put up on here of Phil Anselmo shaving Tommy Lee's head. Like, those bands absolutely embraced Pantera and kind of wanted to ride that wave if they could, because they saw their relevancy starting to wane. That's just how things were. So because of that, these bands really changed their identity. It's why a band like Skid Row went from sounding like this to sounding more like this. A little heavier, right? It's why a band like Shotgun Messiah went from looking like this to looking like this. Definitely inspired by Pantera. Now, one of the biggest examples I could give of a band from that 80s era embracing the Pantera look and the Pantera sound was when Mötley Crüe came back in 1994. Vince Neil was no longer in the band, and they brought on John Corabi. Now, some of the songs on that album don't at all sound inspired by Pantera, but there is one song in particular that really gets overlooked. Unless you're a Mötley Crüe fan, it's very likely you never heard it. And when I hear it, and when I see the video, I go, this is heavily inspired by what Pantera was doing at the time. So let's get into it. All right, I'm not even going to keep going. I'm going to play that again for you because I want to make a note of something. Tommy Lee has a very recognizable drum sound, and that's not it. That's Tommy Lee doing his best Vinnie Paul. Even that opening riff and those drums sound very Pantera-esque, so I want you to hear that again. This is heavy for Mötley Crüe, for sure. So here's the thing. John Corabi is not able to scream the way that Phil Anselmo screams. But I hear some inspiration there. And then also just the visual of that, right? Partially this is because Mötley Crüe was not doing the numbers that they were maybe 5 years prior to this. Very low budget video, very just bare bones. And that's kind of what you'd expect from Pantera. A song about weed, you'd expect that from Pantera. The marijuana leaves everywhere in the imagery, very Pantera-esque. I'm not going to play the entire song, but I'm going to play just a little bit more for you to get the feel of what we're talking about here, because I certainly hear it. I want to hear in the comments if you guys hear it, and I expect this video not to be monetized since we're using other people's content here. This is all property of Mötley Crüe. So if you want to support the channel, please send a super thanks, or you can check out the merch store below for all the great stuff that we have. All right, you guys could check out the rest of that, of course, on YouTube. I would suggest you pick up the full album because it's a great, highly underrated album. Let me know if you hear the Pantera influence there. I certainly do, and like I said, Pantera changed everything. It's the reason you don't see Mötley Crüe wearing makeup there, and it's the reason they're just dressed like regular dudes, and there's nothing glam at all about the song, about the image, or any of that. I hear a lot of Vinnie Paul there. I hear a lot of Dimebag Darrell, and I even hear just a little bit of Phil Anselmo in those vocals. John Corabi does not have the scream of Phil, but I think in the studio they said, come with something fucking heavy, like Cowboys from Hell or something. Anyway, on the topic of Pantera, I've got a few Pantera videos in the works because, believe it or not, this is going to blow your freaking mind. We're celebrating 25 years of this album right here, Reinventing the Steel, which I think is a full-blown classic and is highly underrated. Believe it or not, it's my favorite of the Pantera albums, and it holds incredible significance to me. So I'm going to do a video on that. I have another Pantera-related video in the works. We've got plenty that you're going to see. But for now, if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. Hitting the like really helps us reach new followers, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to grow this channel. And check out this video right here if you want to check out some more of the great content right here on Ian Scotto Rocks. We're not going anywhere, so keep it right here to this channel and make sure you check out the videos regularly.